Okay, so now we should be live. Huh? I don't know yet, but we should, and it's recording. So welcome to the 7th edition of the 2021 Physics Matter Colloquia Series, Physics for Development, so which is organized by the Forum on International Physics, the FIP, at the American Physical Society, the APS. So I will introduce the member of our panel, so then our esteemed speaker today. So first, Andrea Lossi, who is the scientific director of the SESAME Light Source in Jordan. And for the Forum of International Physics, my name is Christine Daur. I work at the European Spallation Source in Sweden. I'm the vice chair of the FIP. Alan Hurd, so our FIP chair, is working in Los Alamos lab in the US. Johnny Mella from the ICTP in Trieste in Italy. Luisa Cifarelli from Bologna University, who could not be here unfortunately. But we have Marilena Longobardi from Switzerland, who is supporting the FIP newsletter. So our live science colloquia primarily target early scientists, early career scientists in developing community, but we are also aiming to bring the science and innovation made possible thanks to the research infrastructure and also the collaboration. So all of that, we try to bring it to the reality. So in 2020, so the initiative of Luisa Cifarelli has been to launch this colloquia series and to have this scientific quest. So that started the series by an expedition called Polar Quest 2020, and then 4 more exciting recordings, so including the digital transformation and 4 also more topic on time and science that you can look from our website. So in 2021, so our live popular science colloquia focused on the 8 Middle East country member of the SESAME project and its observer, presenting more high story on the essential physics question. So in this, so we invite you, as I mentioned, to our website to watch those precious recordings, to enlighten your winter days and night, or maybe the summer one, so if you live in Brazil or in Australia. So last month, we had, for instance, a presentation by Professor Raza Ejhadi, so president of the Physical Society of Iran, and Vahim Karimipour, who were presenting the quantum computer, and which had gathered more than 300 dynamic scientists, women and men from around the world. So bringing and building capacity with international scientific research and innovation and creating some international spirit, some international community, some new collaboration. This is encrypted in this series, Physics for Development. So for instance, one of the brightest presentation also this year has been given by Kamel Giram, who is in SESAME working and presenting women scientists in the Middle East. So this presentation last June has been followed by a forum where we had the opportunity to have with us Zafra Lerman, from the president of the Malta Conference Foundation, Bernard Amadei, the president of Engineers Without Borders in the US, and our esteemed guest today, so Professor Ghaleb Natour, who, beyond his responsibility in Euless to provide the ESS with critical component and being himself the ESS German Industrial Liaison Officer, has an impressive and extending activity portfolio. So Professor Ghaleb Natour was born in Kalan Samha, in Israel in 1960. So he's Palestinian, Israeli, and has the German citizenship as well. He has lived in Germany since 1979. He studied physics in Heidelberg and worked as a scientist and engineering and technology manager in Haaren in Germany for 18 years. Today, he is Institute Director of the Forum Centrum, Euless, and University Professor in RWTH, Haaren University. So Professor Natour is co-founder and chairman of the board for the Association for the Promotion of Peace in Israel and Palestine, and co-founder and CEO of the German-Arab Bridge for innovation and science in science and technology. So Professor Ghaleb Natour is the initiator and scientific director of the Palestinian-German Science Bridge, who is a project that started in 2017. So now I give the possibilities to Andrea Lossi to present and give a short introduction of this collaboration and impact as well with the SESAME from the Palestinian and German side.
Yes. So thank you, Christine. Thank you very much. So the building that you see at my back, that is the internal hall of SESAME. For those who are not so much familiar with that, SESAME is born from an idea in the early 90s of having a single radiation facility in the Middle East. And according to this, it was tailored similarly to the CERN, so with members and observers. Members are from the region and observers are from all around the world and are also institutions. So CERN is a member, is an observer. And while members are taking care essentially of the running costs and of the investment in capital, the observers, so the international community, has helped us with both capital investment and training and instrumentation and. So they have been extremely important to get this building and the beamlines, etc. In particular, Germany has been, let's say, I would say the solid rock on which everything was built on, because the accelerators, which are at the heart of SESAME, the microtron, and going from 0 to 20 MeV, and the booster, which raises then the energy up to 800 MeV before injecting in the main ring, they are BESI 1. So this was an idea more or less in the late 90s by Hermann Winnig and the then director of DAISY, Gustav Voss, to rebuild BESI 1, which was the machine in Berlin, which was decommissioned at that time, to rebuild it in the Middle East. The idea made a fantastic story, obviously, but it was not enough. So at the end, SESAME uses these two machines only for the acceleration for the first two stages, and the storage ring is a completely new machine, new ring, which runs at 2.5 GeV and which hosts around the various beamlines. After that, Germany, as an observer, contributed also to another beamline. So the EXAS beamline, which was the first one open to users in 2018, has been provided by Helmholtz Institute, and was a former beamline in ESRF, a former CRG beamline in ESRF. And in this very moment, Helmholtz is also constructing another beamline, which will be the first soft X-rays beamline, Helmholtz SESAME beamline, which will be installed in 2022. In January 2022, we will start installing it, and it will be a big step forward for SESAME, because we don't have at the moment any undulator beamline with soft X-rays. So which will give access to an energy range which is not available at the moment. And it also nucleates the first CRG beamline from Turkey, because the source will be shared now with a beamline which Turkey is providing. And so it's all piling up and making more and more, adding momentum to SESAME. Palestinian users are coming and are starting to use this machine. As I remember, this is a very young machine, and the scientists are just now finding the way. COVID arrived in the very wrong moment. It's never a good moment for COVID, but this was particularly severe on us because we were just taking velocity, and not to have the possibility to host users at the very beginning has been quite a problem. But now things are getting back on track. I'm expecting the first in-person Palestinian users next week. That will be very good. So I hope that this was comprehensive enough. I'm not here since the beginning, so I might have forgotten some detail, but I try to learn my history, and so
exactly. So we see
let's
really
go for the future now.
Exactly, and Germany has a big role in the past, in the present, and hopefully in the future even more by this first possibility as well very soon. So thank you very much, Andrea. So now we can have the possibility to learn more about this existing as well collaboration, thanks to Ghaleb. So if you want to share the screen, and then for the question and answer, maybe if you can keep them for the end, but then you can raise your hand if you want, and also put your question in the question and answer box that is on the bottom or in the chat if you want, but mainly in the question and answer, that would be better. Thank you very much. Ghaleb, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Christine and Andrea, for the introduction. Thank you, Christine, especially for inviting me to give this talk and for connecting me to very interesting forums and people. So I prepared a few slides about the topic building capacity for Palestine in the area of research and innovation. I'm using my role as belonging to two organizations. One is the Center for Research in Euless, the Euless Research Center, which we called Forschungszentrum Euless in Germany, and the Aachen University on the one hand, on the other hand, being from Israel and Palestine at the same time, if you want, and living in Germany. So it's a combination of two high-tech and education research institutions with my personal background, which I'm trying to use for the good of my first home country. Christine, you mentioned where I'm from. So this is Kalansawa, the city within Israel, but not far away from the West Bank, where I'm coming from. Most of what on this slide you just mentioned. So I have a physics background, worked many years in industry, and since 10 years or 11 years in the meantime, I am at this Forschungszentrum Euless. And since 2015 at the RWTH Aachen University at the Mechanical Engineering Department or faculty, in spite of the fact that I'm a physicist, but there are some physical aspects that the engineers like measurement technologies are looking at. So this was also mentioned, my side activities besides my work in Euless. So I will skip this. Here I prepared a slide about the research landscape in Germany. So if you look to the kind of research, sometimes it is a product-oriented, short-term research, from product-oriented short-term research to knowledge-oriented basic research. So this is the term of the research, how long it takes until you have the results. And in this plot, I have the different contributors to research. So you have on the one hand, the industry on the product-oriented part, on the left part of the slide, having some universities or some of the work of the universities is here in this area and also in the long-term research. But in Germany, there are some governmental or national organizations supported by the government doing research. So the Fraunhofer Society in Germany is a large organization. The Max Planck Society is another one. The Leibniz Society Association is another organization, and the Helmholtz Association. I have also some of the numbers about these organizations. So you see many thousands of people, employees working in different institutes of this organization. The Fraunhofer Society has 75 institutes with around 3 billion euro yearly budget. Most of this is funded by industry because they work for the industry, 80%. And on the other hand, the Max Planck Society, having also more than 80 institutes, having 24,000 employees, they are more than 85% funded by public funds. So these are the two extremes. And in between is the Helmholtz Association, covering product-oriented to basic research, having around 5 billion euro of yearly budget. 70% of this money is coming from the government and from the state governments, where the institutions are. So 18 centers and 42,000 employees. So this is just to show that there is a huge potential and huge budget in Germany for scientific research that, from my perspective, can be used to help build capacities for Palestine, as an example. The Helmholtz Association, it's a governmental one, as I said, and it have the task to face the grand challenges facing society, like aging, like energy supply and transport, like environment protection, and so on. So out of these millions that I mentioned that the government is spending, 5 are going to the Helmholtz Association and its centers, 18 centers, and it has 42,000 employees, as I just said. So this is the organization where Forschungszentrum Euless is belonging to. And these are the 18 other centers. In the Helmholtz Association, these centers are sometimes monothematic, like if you want, the German Center for, or it is the German Center for Cancer Research in Heidelberg. This one, the KFZ. So they are focusing on cancer research. There are some in the north, some centers focusing on marine and ocean research. The DLR, the German Aviation and Space Agency, and institutions are focusing on these topics. And there are some multidisciplinary centers like Karlsruhe, like Euless. So Euless is here. This is the map of Germany, and Euless is in the far west of Germany, not far away from Belgium, Netherlands, and the other European countries. So it is, if you want, in the middle of Europe, but very far away in the west in Germany. These are some numbers about Forschungszentrum Euless. Again, I'm mentioning these organizations and institutions because we are building upon this to get to the Palestinian capacity building. So the Euless Research Center is a former nuclear facility research center or nuclear energy research center founded in 1956. It has 11 large institutes. I will come to this later. Out of this 4.2 or 4.5, it was billion euro budget of the Helmholtz Association. 730 million are coming to Euless per year. We have around 6,400 employees and many visiting scientists. Many of them, in the meantime, are Palestinians. So these 11 institutes, large institutes, are consisting of 74 sub-institutes, and every sub-institute is an institute covering one area of research. I will come to this later when I show the list of institutes. This is important because we have in many different institutes in Euless Palestinian students who are doing their study projects like bachelor, master, and PhD projects in these different institutes for environment, for atmospheric research, for hadron physics, for neutron scattering, for plant research, and so on. This is a special thing. It is in Germany called the Euless Model because it started in Euless. It's a cooperation between the national research centers and the universities. As you know, in Germany, the universities are in the area of the state governments. So they belong to the state governments and their budgets belong to the state governments, but the National Research Center are belonging to the federal government. And Euless, if you want, invented a very fruitful cooperation model between this National Research Center and the universities. So the idea is appointment of professors between the two institutions. I make one example, the University of Aachen. So here you see the numbers of professors. 120 professors are in Euless, 74 or maybe 80 of them are directors of sub-institutes in Euless. And these are the numbers of these professors at the universities, mainly in North Rhine-Westphalia, is the state where Euless is in, and in other universities in Germany. So in Regensburg is one, even in Belgium are one. And the interesting thing here is, like if you take Aachen, so we have 45 professors in Euless who are at the same time directors of institutes in Euless and have professorships and Lehrstuhl, which means chairs, at the University of Aachen or other universities. This is a very good cooperation model because, so take me as an example. I am director of a large institute in Euless, which is having around 160 employees. So my main task is doing the work in Euless, but I have the right, or I'm a member at the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering in Aachen with full rights, which means I can supervise the PhD students who are doing their work at our center in Euless and give them the grade of PhD or master in the name of the Aachen University without me costing Aachen any euro. So my salary is paid by Euless, and I have a minimal duty of teaching in Aachen, but have enough time to do my main work in Euless. This is the case for all other institutes directors. And this is a very good cooperation that I would actually like to copy into the Palestinian areas, to the universities, to the National Research Center that I hope it will be built in Palestine. So if I put the summary of the Research Center Euless on one slide, I would say it is a national research center with a large budget. Its mission is to address major challenges facing society, which means these challenges are in other societies in similar way. It has a world-class science and technology level. It is affiliated with German universities, as I just explained. It has a worldwide network and partnerships with many research institutions and large multinational projects. And at the same time, it has need for motivated and well-educated students who are doing their projects in Euless, because we don't have enough of these people. So having this in mind, on the other hand, if you go to Palestine, we have the situation of occupation with many restrictions. We have a huge lack of infrastructure for experimental research. It's a real problem. There are limited possibilities for instrumentation and scientific technical work. On the other hand, there is a sound basic and theoretical education, and you have highly motivated students and faculty members. And these two slides, if you want, the one about Euless with its possibilities and huge potential, and the need on the Palestinian side, and the potential having these students, led me to this idea, a kind of vision for Palestine to help build the research and development infrastructure for science and technology in Palestine. So one idea could be to establish a national research center, or to establish to establish a national technology services center equipped with, for instance, electron microscopes, chromatographs, and so on to serve the community. Establish PhD programs. There are very few that are starting now, but a long time there were very few or no PhD programs at Palestinian universities, which is one pillar of research. So you need this to make a sustainable research in science and technology. And there are many Palestinians with experience in Europe, in the US, in European and countries outside Palestine. So this can be made with the help of, so many people of these Palestinians in the diaspora could have or are having such a slide summarizing their base institution where are they working. And this can be combined to realize this vision, to serve the community, to absorb and keep Palestinian graduates in the country, to develop the country, and at the end to support a just peace in the Middle East. We started the cooperation between the Palestinian areas and Germany, the scientific cooperation in 2011. It was an initiative by the ministries of higher education and research of both sides, where we had a workshop in Ramallah in the West Bank discussing how to support the cooperation, the scientific cooperation. And the outcome of this was the PALGER, the Palestinian German calls that we in the meantime have 3 of. So it is a call supporting with money from Germany, cooperation between German and Palestinian projects and scientists. So this list of areas of cooperation, the projects need to be in one of these areas. As you see, this is a wide area of activity, so many projects can be supported. And we have different amounts of money to support mainly mobility of the scientists visiting each other, sometimes small equipments. And we wanted to promote also the cooperation between the Palestinian universities and increase the sum of the fund depending on the number of the partners on the Palestinian side. So this is, if you want, the small sister of the Palestinian German Science Bridge. And the Palestinian German Science Bridge is a project that we in Euless applied for or defined or proposed to the ministry in Germany, the Federal Ministry of Education and Research, with the idea to develop a long-term research and education program between Germany and Palestine, in this case between Euless and Palestine, because we started with Euless. So the partners are Euless on the one hand with its network of partner universities, and on the other hand, the Palestinian Academy for Science and Technology, PALAST, as a representative of all universities. And this project was starting in 2017, still running, so we are in the middle of this project, and was funded by around 6 million euro from the ministry in Germany. It is a pilot project, which means we wanted from the beginning to make it as a first step and to build upon it when it is successful, that we can apply for the next project. And in next application, we intend to open it, to make it more open, not only in Euless and not only for technology, but also for humanity subjects and so on, also between organizations in Germany. So a few information, a few points about the content of it. So we wanted to provide access for Palestinians to Euless scientific infrastructures that I mentioned, and to assist Euless scientists to recruit excellent students, to develop sustainable long-term cooperation. So we are not a scholarship program, offering not scholarships with the PGSB, but want to have sustainable cooperation. So we emphasize this with the students, with the partners. We want to strengthen the development of graduates and research programs. We want to enable them to do research themselves when they are graduating. We want to encourage the Palestinian faculty members to develop cooperation with the scientists in Germany, so to push them from the other side. So these are the direct goals. And the content of the Science Bridge, if you want, how we spent the money until now. We have 2 workshops per year. It was stopped by the COVID problematic, but until now we had few workshops, one in Germany and one in the West Bank during 1 year. So around until now, I think we had 5 or so workshops. We are supporting cooperation projects. We are supporting regular visits of research teams, and mainly the students who are doing their projects, bachelor and master. The projects are graduated at the Palestinian University, even if the experimental work is done in Euless, and the PhD projects are fully done in Germany and supervised by Euless professors and at their universities, which means that the grades are awarded by, if you take me as the example from my earlier explanation, then I am awarding the PhD title in the name of the RWTH Aachen University. So this is the content, what we in the meantime have. So you see here, 3 months for bachelor, 6 months for master, and around 3 years for PhD that we sometimes extended because of the COVID problematic. Initially, we planned 15 bachelor students per year, 10 master students per year, and 14 PhD students per year. And this is what we awarded, what we have. 20 bachelor students, who most of them, and 24 master students, most of them are, or many of them finished their projects and went back. And from the 41 PhD students, 2 already finishing, and the others are now in Euless. So this is a large group of international students doing their projects in Euless, Palestinian group. The interesting thing is that 50% of all these students are females, which is a good news. We started also a postdoctoral fellowship program within the Science Bridge to give students and institutes in Euless, so both sides, the opportunity to continue their cooperation. The postdoctoral students will go for longer time, for a few weeks, a year, or more than one time a year to the university in Palestine, and to strengthen the cooperation, to start look for a future position where they can do research. The other aspect is that we started to build clusters of research, so clustering research areas to one cluster to give a frame of cooperation, of topics that are close together. So we have, for instance, structural biology or the mobility cluster, nanoscience, agricultural sustainability, including many plant and algae research, and so on. So these are clusters where we have more than one institute in Euless cooperating and more than one university on the Palestinian side, or more than one scientist from different universities cooperating, which means we have a cluster of research which can be a nucleus of a research center that will be established hopefully there. So this is summarizing the idea of sustainability of the science bridge, how we want to connect, to inform, and to enable. I skipped this details because of time, but since this is recorded and you can see it later, I keep it a little bit. So we have different aspects. As I said, build, connect, inform, enable. And this is a list of the large institutes. So what you see here is the 11 large institutes in Euless. Normally, the name of the institute is giving information about the topic of the institute. Yeah, but like the Peter Grunberg Institute, so you can imagine that it's physics, because Peter Grunberg had the Nobel Prize in 2007. So this is the, if you want, solid state physics and nanoelectronics physics and so on. And in all other cases, the name of the institute is, so this is my, this is my institute, the Central Institute for Engineering, Electronics and Analytic. This is an electron microscopy institute, and in all these institutes, we have 24 of sub-institute in these large institutes having or hosting Palestinian students. And we have also Palestinian students outside Euless. So we have at Munich, at the MLZ facility in Hamburg, and also in Nuremberg, where we have remote institutes of Euless. So the Palestinian students are in all areas of research in Euless and in Germany. This is important if you want to build capacity and not only have them educated in one topic. So at the beginning of the Science Bridge, we had many discussions, especially with the Palestinian side, about is it really a good idea to have people educated in many areas, but not in, for instance, waste management or the water purification, or these things that are urgently needed or more urgently needed in the Palestinian areas. And the answer is yes, you could do it, but then we could not do it from Euless, because in Euless we don't have so many areas that are directly connected. But on the second look to it, what we know now in the meantime, all these areas are very relevant to the research topics in Palestine, because we have active cooperations between the German and the Palestinian side. So all these areas where the students are doing their projects are at the same time areas of interest of the Palestinian researchers. I would like to mention that we recently had the results of a midterm evaluation that we successfully passed, so to speak. It's a professional evaluation conducted by an external company based on the OECD DAC criteria, where these questions about relevance of the project, coherence of the project, effectiveness and efficiency of the project, impact and sustainability, and in all these points, we had very positive answers. In the two last points, because it is a midterm evaluation, it is too early to judge. Respectively, it is not in our hands to influence. So, but I just wanted to mention this because we discussed the results recently. So we received them a few days ago. So if you ask the question, what is needed for successful scientific research? You need the creative scientists. We are educating them and producing them if you want. But you also need the technical equipment and instrumentation. You need also between the middle layer between the high academic, like PhD holders, and the craftsmen, the mechanics people, or the professionals. So there is a layer of technical people, technicians, who you need to operate, for instance, an electron microscope or sophisticated equipment in a technology lab or engineering lab or physics lab. And for this, we discussed and initiated the dual studies program at Al-Quds University. Now, in the meantime, it's a successful program. So this is in Germany a new system combining the professional education with the academic education. So at the same time, you get a degree, like in this case, Bachelor of Engineering, and at the same time, you are an expert, technician expert in electronics, electric equipment. But most important for doing research is the research environment that you need. So the political and institutional environment that is supportive of research is needed. In Palestine, it is not there, so it's need to be made. There are other bridges and initiatives. I know, for instance, after our bridge, there was also the Canadian Palestinian bridge established. So there are many bridges and initiatives. All of them will lead to well-educated graduates, highly qualified capacities, who are able to make research and development, who are able to apply for external funds for R&D, which is important for the sustainability of research, who are educated to deal with IPR and with publications. And if you want, all these people are kind of seeds. Now you need the healthy soil. If you want, the rain is the money, but rain is enough, especially in Europe and in the US. So the money is there, but you need the soil. Yeah? And the soil is the system that the Palestinian side need to establish with our help, but they need to establish it there. So the necessary steps are absorbing of the graduates from the different bridges and initiatives to enable them to establish their own research groups, having instrumentation and time for research, continuing the cooperation with their partners where they have the relationship already, establish a system with R&D friendly environment, as I just said. There are many issues that need to be addressed, like the teaching load of the employees. So it is not enough to give a Palestinian German Science Bridge graduate a position at the university as a faculty member, because he will or she will have too many hours to teach and will have no time to do research. Yeah? So this needs to be discussed or changed. The faculty positions are important, the cooperation with the private sectors. So all these things that I mentioned here are already successfully participated in Western countries where many Palestinians live. And mainly new policies by universities, by academies, by councils, by ministries, and so on are needed. So policies are needed to establish an ecosystem of supporting of research and innovation. In short, you need a national research center in Palestine based on what we already mentioned. So to realize the vision, commitment to implement all the mentioned steps is needed. Otherwise, we and the other initiatives will have contributed to an increase in the number of unemployed academics, which is already very high, which is not a good news. Therefore, I would like to summarize some of my recommendations. So the Palestinians need a national research center. They need to develop a win-win relationship among universities, but also between public sector and private sector. Need to focus on training in innovation, like publication, like IPR, like entrepreneurship, and so on. Need to renew regulations and laws, consider new policies, adapt successful concepts with help from Palestinians in the diaspora, like I just said. So this would be a success. Now, I would like to mention SESAME, not only because Andrea Lausi is a member of the panel, but also because I see SESAME as a natural partner for the Palestinian-German Science Bridge, because it is one of the few, if not the only, research site from the Palestinian perspective in the area that can absorb some of the graduates that they can start their scientific career at a real scientific facility. So the SESAME, I think you know what it is. Not far away from Palestine. Palestine is a member, as it was mentioned at the beginning. So there are already 3 beamlines in operation, but there are also three beamlines under construction. These are the beamlines, and this mentioned HESEB, Andrea just mentioned it at the beginning, is also being built by the Helmholtz Association. It was an initiative by DAISY, supported by Euless. And in this case, it's my institute who is contributing to this project. So it was myself who supported the initiative from the beginning, because I see in this very important aspect for not only as a science diplomacy project, but also for the future of the PGSB project. Therefore, we are now planning a SESAME PGSB workshop in 2 weeks from today around, where we want to present the different experimental capabilities at SESAME through the beamlines, to highlight the research opportunities there for the Palestinian scientists and graduates, and to gather innovative research ideas of young Palestinian scientists, so to connect this huge potential of scientists and coming scientists and future scientists from the Palestinian side with the huge potential which SESAME is offering in being a very good research facility. As a last slide, I would like to mention that a colleague of mine, Dr. Muayyad Abu Sa', who is a Vice President for Academic Affairs at the Arab American University in Palestine, in Jenin, he will give an overview of the higher education in Palestine, will give information and numbers and statistics about universities, colleges, institutions, about students, staff, some academic programs and different universities, and some information about a few activities of scientific research. This will be in the same forum, I understood, in December 9th. So since this was my last slide, thank you very much for your attention, and I am ready for questions and discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ghaleb, for this very comprehensible presentation. So then we invite you to put your question in the question and answer chat box. So we have already some of them in the chat. So maybe we can speak and start with those one by having maybe even them live with Alan, if you don't mind to start.
Well, okay, I have a question about the Science Bridge. First of all, it's a brilliant name. I congratulate you on that branding of the Science Bridge. One of the major objectives is building scientific capacity in Palestine. How do you measure that?
I did not understand the last word. How
do you measure the science capacity?
How I measure it? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to make a remark about the name, Science Bridge. So it is, I'm sorry, but it's not my invention. But I participated in the Georgian-German Science Bridge that we have with Georgia. So I'm one of the institutes who are carrying this operation, and with their permission, I copied the name for the Palestinian Science Bridge. Yeah. So measuring the output, yeah, is not so easy, because I set for my success, as I mentioned on the last slides, we will be successful if we succeed in establishing research groups there. Because producing PhD holders in physics and engineering and different areas is not enough when these people become, become workless, become jobless. Yeah. We have this midterm evaluation where a company interviewed many stakeholders of the project and intends to have evaluation at the end of the program. And I hope that with interviews of these different stakeholders, the fellows, the universities, the partners, and also the industry, we will have a good measurement of our success or not success.
Okay, very good. Cheryl Spencer has a question, and I've just given her voice capability.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I got up really early here in California to listen to this very interesting panel and talk. So my question is, what languages are your students obliged to use? You have English, you have German, and you have Arabic. So how do they manage with all those languages?
Since Euless is an international, or since we have many international employees and students, German language at the level of PhD, say, is English language at the level of PhD is a standard language. So many students use the English language and it is enough, but many of them learn German and try to communicate with their colleagues with German, but for the scientific work, English is enough. So it is the main language which is used, like with other Chinese and other foreign students and employees at the Forschungszentrum Euless.
So, but I suspect they also need to learn some German. So when they go shopping and go to restaurants, they will probably need to use some German.
Yes, they learn German, and many Germans know also English. So this is not a language problem. Sometimes it's a cultural problem, but the language is not. Many of them are learning first courses of German language.
Thank you.
So maybe, Cheryl, we can ask you as well to introduce also all the effort that you did, because I think it's very remarkable too.
Say that again.
Would you mind to introduce yourself as well and mention
yes,
you're a really
yes.
special person that the community needs to know as well?
Yes, so I am a retired physicist. I worked for many years at the SLAC National Accelerator Lab here in near Palo Alto, California. And I was in the chair line of the Forum on International Physics. I finished like 3 years ago. So I am very interested in physics from an international point of view, having been educated in Great Britain. I did my PhD experiment at CERN in Switzerland. I got my PhD in 1972. We're approaching 50 years since I got my PhD. and I did a postdoc in Frascati in Italy, which is kind of one reason I asked about the language, because I was obliged to learn some Italian. But as you said, my Italian colleagues, their English improved greatly while I was there. My Italian didn't really improve very much. and then I came to America, and I've been here in Northern California since 1974. And so I have an international point of view of physics, and I'm a member of the American Physical Society. Currently, I'm actually on the Forum on Physics and Society, another forum. I'm a member at large at the Forum on Physics and Society. And so hello to all of you, because I recognize you all. Alan, Maria, and Christine. Thank you for letting me have a chat.
Thanks a lot, Cheryl. And we mentioned as well this very interesting days as well with the Sakharov 100th anniversary that you led successfully. And everything is as well on the APS website. So for anyone that wants to learn more about that. Thanks a lot, Cheryl. So I see that we have another questions as well. So from Sekazi, and I put you as well, I promote you as well to the panel list. So if you want to ask the question or give some comment,
Sekazi had to leave just now.
Oh, he had to leave. Sorry. Okay.
But Jimmy Anderson is ready.
Exactly. So Jimmy, but I need the wait. I will give him the voice.
Yeah, he's ready.
Voilà.
I think I have it.
Yes, you have the voice. Better than mine.
Yeah, you seem a bit rough today. Well, hello, Ghaleb. It was it's very good to see you again, even though it's virtual this time. And thank you very much for a very impressive presentation. It's amazing what has been achieved so far. I just wanted maybe to raise my hand a little bit in what I'm considering around the ESS, let's say, bridge from science to wherever. Actually, there's both a geographical bridge, but also a bridge to industry, to impact, to societal impact. And in order to put some thoughts behind this kind of idea of an innovative ecosystem, I actually looked at MIT last year, where I did a course in ecosystems, and most of the very successful innovative ecosystems have some kind of a DNA. So it could be female entrepreneurs, it could be some societal impact DNA. And it just occurs to me that the whole Palestine subject could be the DNA of an innovative ecosystem. And many companies think very broadly, you can say horizontally, when they think about impact. And I just wondered if you've had any thoughts of establishing such an ecosystem. And then I know there are different pictures created in the heads of different people, but the MIT perspective, it needs to have 5 stakeholder groups to be sustainable, amongst others, venture capital. But have you any thoughts in this direction? Because I'm quite excited about what I just seen, because I think it actually would make a lot of sense. think it all the way to innovation and impact when you're doing all these great things as you've just presented?
Yeah, until now, from my side, I focused on the science bridge from our side, covering the needs of the students and of the cooperation. And all the time told the Palestinian side, please take care of your coming next ecosystem, supporting research. But it's a good idea to, because it is what I'm seeing there, there is not so many funds at the universities, not so large budgets for, or no budgets at all for research at the universities. Maybe it's a good idea, thank you for that, not just to say build your ecosystem, but to give them more ideas in what direction they could go. But we did not address this yet because we are in the middle of the project. And I'm starting now to make a little bit pressure for the future about absorbing these people who are going to be the latest in 3 years finishing their PhDs.
I'm more than happy to help and support when you're ready for it and explain some of our thoughts maybe. So you're welcome to contact me.
I will do. Thank you very much.
And I can complement on that with an article that we wrote already with Jimmy on this concept. So based on research infrastructure and as well the model like with the education, the industry and research infrastructure and how all of that as well is needed for a broad view. So we'll send as well this information to you. So because the aspect of industry is also an important one indeed, because when we see, for instance, with the SESAME, and that might be one as well of the important part to develop the country economy, to have as well some topic that through university could then be handled by SESAME. And in some sense, I remember while writing this article, we saw with the case of the SRF, for instance, in Grenoble, 40% of those topics as well from industry were passing through university to be able then to come as well to being some beam time in the light source. So that could be quite an interesting aspect as well to close the loop. Huh? But as you said, and one of the things as well, which is interesting, is to think about an agile way as well of gathering the different disciplines, indeed with education. So those different disciplines you were mentioning about some of those topics. So you thought, for instance, or you mentioned in Palestine some of those niche kind of with the water purification applied directly as well to their need, or the risk management. When you were speaking about risk management, so what would you mean, like a training MBA or having some more general way of handling a business? Is there, so you are working in those domains as well while you are training students that are specifically or who would be then interested to work for the or with this Palestinian bridge, Ghaleb?
I acoustically did not get what you said the last sentences. I have.
Speaking about, you mentioned about some of those aspects for the training where in the field of water purification or risk management you were mentioning. So risk management, it can be a broad way. So, but were you thinking more on a scientific point of view or with engineering capacity or with MBA aspect where it would be for developing business, and then that would relate to also what Jimmy was asking or mentioning, because that the three are important. So yeah, how to create a global transversal way as well of impacting the society directly.
Yeah, I think that we started with the topics that are existing in Euless at our research center, but already opening it, for instance, to not only to science, but also to managing science. Yeah? And all these aspects are coming slowly to, in addition to what we started with, because we see that these things are important. So we made from the beginning the guidelines or the policy of our work is flexible. So if we see a need in one area, we can flexibly react to it. We are not very rigid in our selections or so. Yeah.
Excellent. The adaptability. So this is what is so important. And we see the same in Africa, same way, to try to really understand the context and how it can be the most impactful.
Yeah.
We see that there is a question from Marilena. Yeah, you wanna?
Yes. First of all, thank you for your nice talk. I have a question. We are talking about industry, but what is the current landscape of industry in Palestine? And then I have a comment. I've been to Palestine in 2019 on a field trip for visiting universities in Palestine. And as a scientist, I was really amazed of the urgent need of support for science and for a young student in Palestine. So it's an amazing initiative to bring something to Palestine.
Thank you. To the question of industry, there is no real industry there. So there is, if you want, a simple industry like shoe industry, like food industry, but not a really high-tech industry. But there are many companies. When we say industry, we mean more than industrial production, because there are many companies, for instance, doing software development. These companies, if you want, this is a private sector, they could need research. Yeah? And thinking like this adaptability, what Christine mentioned, is an important aspect, that we not say the project or the graduate, the fellow need to have a contract at an industry company, then it will become difficult. But say in the private sector, whatever it is, if it is needing research, then it is the right partner for us. So there is not so much. There is also some organizations. It's not industry, not private sector. It is kind of like the Water Research Authority. There are some organizations that could be playing the role of industry, like in Europe for research, that they absorb or cooperate with these researchers.
And what about data science that maybe need less infrastructure for?
This, because of that, I mentioned software development. So
I see.
Yeah, so there are many activities in using. I'm also offering our high-level, high-performance computer in Euless to the universities. There are some activities they can be involved as this environment of not academia, not industry, but kind of industry.
Thank you.
Very good. So we have a good question as well from Adnan. So can I give you the voice as well, Adnan? Like this, you can ask it live.
Sure. Hi, I'm Adnan Gribia. I work at Ghaleb, France. My question is about setting up international labs. Here in France, sometimes when we have a strong collaboration with a foreign country in a foreign lab, we can set up a lab that is co-funded by the two countries or by the big project, and that lab can be in the foreign country. Could that be done under the German-Palestinian bridge flag?
In theory, yes, but money-wise, no, because we have no money more. So, but the idea is the aforementioned pilot project. We are thinking to apply for the next project, including equipment and instrumentation. This can be a kind of German-Palestinian lab. We participated this already in Georgia, where the PhD fellows who are finishing their PhD go back with the equipment from Euless and build around it a research group at their university. So this can be done. Yeah, but talked all the time about a national research lab, because the Palestinian universities or initiatives, not only the universities, many people are addressing, they acknowledge the fact that research is important and say, I would like to establish a research unit at my university or at my center or at my organization. The idea, because I'm calling it national, the idea is put all these efforts together and build one unit common between all of you. So this is what I mentioned with the National Research Center. Okay.
So the idea behind the international lab is to have, for example, German people or French or anyway, any other people go there for some time and train people in Palestine.
Yeah, it's
instead of having two PhD students come and train in Germany, having one that trained 10 in Palestine.
Yeah. Actually, this is in line with what I called clusters, that we have such, if I would compare to the idea of international lab that you just described, so it is very similar to it, because we have in this cluster more universities from the Palestinian side and more institutes from our institution, all of them, 5, 6, 7 partners working on one facility for algae research, for instance. Yeah.
Okay.
This goes in the direction. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Very good. And as well, maybe on the same line, like with different research infrastructure, that's one of the things, but foundation, for instance, or with, we know with the ICTP, with the Physics Without Borders. So that was actually the representation of Physics Without Borders. She couldn't stay too long, but then she was mentioning about the different program that was started in 2012 and for particle physics as well. So where they had already organized and delivered with volunteers, so in Palestinian, in the West Bank and in Gaza, there was a possibility to receive lecture and hands-on training on experimental particle physics. So all those different development are something which is important. So training and hands-on experiment. So there is as well some, and I guess that the ICTP could definitively as well support with or coming from another stream, but to the university. So maybe a collaboration or cooperation as well within those universities to get a bit more as well equipment, because as you said, this is the basis of everything for training, so new researcher and as well having possibility to even graduate with some PhD directly in Palestine. That would be like the best way, because there are also a lot of alumni students that were coming as well from those different initiatives. And apparently, so from Kate Shaw, who presenting that, they also encourage as well different international programs for those students to go on as well with master's, PhD, and the different ICTP and CERN program. So that's maybe some potential as well for getting with those students who are more in high energy physics, but there could be as well something equivalent through CERN, because we know that CERN is as well an important part as well of all those different development. So focusing or understanding, maybe it could be one of the interesting topics as well for the 9th of December, where we will see from the Palestinian side and understanding, so what is the situation there to get the best next generation as well trained in Palestine.
Yeah.
So do we have more questions, or I try to see, Joanna. So Joanna, do you want to ask a question? So Joanna, so I gave you the voice, so do you want to speak? Okay, so she's in an environment where apparently is a bit difficult. So then I will read the question. So is any work being done so with the high school to feed into the Palestinian university? And is it like something that is current, and to support as well the high quality of the student to enter the university and to choose science, engineering subject? So are there any kind of development in that direction, looking at high school to prepare them for university? And same thing, so don't know if you know all of that, we could look at this in December, but you certainly have some insight as well.
Yeah. I had few initiatives contacting schools from the Palestinian areas visiting Euless. So they were not far away from us, and I invited them to come to see what we are doing with this idea in mind, what you just mentioned in the question. But on the other hand, you must see my position. So the Euless scientists are scientists following their work. And now I offer them students for projects. And the higher the level of these students, the less work they have with them. And the other way around, the lower the level, the more they need support, and the shorter the time they stay there. So bachelor student comes for 3 months and have so little experience that they need massive support. Master is 6-7 months, they have more experience, and PhD stays for 3 years and are already nearly scientists. Yeah? And if you look in this scale to the school, high schools and the pupils, then the scientists in Euless would say, I have no time to support these students going around. But the idea is a good one, because I believe also in early attention of these students to the scientific topics. Yeah?
Exactly, and this is where, if with a research infrastructure, with a special program like we have, for instance, with Joanna, who is in charge of the public engagement, we can help with that, and connecting as well high school, where the professor there or the teacher in the high school could as well contribute for kind of the prerequisition that would be needed to speak to the scientists in Euless. So education at the lowest level, so that we can get the highest level in terms of quality as well. Yeah, very good. So Andreas, so you have a question?
I just wanted to complement this answer with this one, because I read the question in the chat. So together with the Canadian Light Source and IUCR, we are preparing a course for high school teachers of the region for January 2022 to explain what is the purpose, what are the purposes, and what are the techniques used in a synchrotron, and what can be done. And this is phase 1 of something that in phase 2 should reach directly the students. But for the moment, we are concentrating on high school teachers. So any kind of it's not yet ready, the program, but it will be it will be soon. And so I hope that you, Ghaleb, could help us in diffusing this program also in Palestine. So we are targeting more or less the entire members plus the entire MENA region, actually, because it will. The time of the school will be tailored on these time slots around here. So say going from Pakistan to Morocco, more or less.
We can talk more about this. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And indeed, this is the same thing with the ESS. So with Diana, I'm sure that it would be interesting, because we're trying to team up as well with CERN for all those different aspects, preparing some online MOOC as well, getting possibility for teaching teacher. And that is also what we do with the African school. Teaching teacher is really the fundamental, so that it can as well broaden to more capacity building. So that's very important. And all those online and as well with virtual reality, augmented reality, we could get some innovative ways as well to disseminate the information. So I think it's crucial that there are some activity in that field. Thanks a lot for this comment. So do we see more questions in the chat? Or so we can think in terms of closing soon this forum. So I think it was very interesting as well to have all those questions, so that were raised by your very nice presentation, Ghaleb. So you see the spin-off as well that are possible with collaboration. So with Physics Matters, and we're trying to be also instrumental in this capacity building in the Middle East, but everywhere. So to kind of think about a global system, a global way of working, a global way of acting that could really promote science in a developing community. So then I will just finish then. So to thank you again, so Ghaleb, for all this presentation. So as you mentioned, so 16th of November will be a milestone for you too. So with Andrea and Ghaleb to prepare more strategic for specific students as well. And then we can hear more about the situation in Palestine. So on the 9th of December, so on the Physics Matter Forum. So that will be I think also very interesting, and we'll try to invite as well some people that have some words to say as well in all those different aspects of developing capacity in those part of the world. So maybe as well with Sekassi. So Sekassi Ozola, who was couldn't say, he's as well in charge for the African light source. And as we mentioned, maybe in some of the earlier talk with SESAME, so there is now a memorandum of understanding in between the two labs. So that's really a global way of thinking to try to see how to distribute as well potentially the load, because the number of scientists is always too low to be able to be in each of the different research infrastructure sufficient. So there is really the need of coordination in one side. Now with online, so we have possibility really to help with all those aspects. So thanks a lot, everyone, for getting this possibility to speak and get so your presentation. So that is, now I will just put on the background, so the presentation for the next colloquium. I mean, it will be a bit different. So being this time addressing or coming back to how at the beginning, so we have this polar quest. So we will have on the 25th of November, Paula Catapano, who will bring back so the expedition that was happening in the summer, but still in a cold summer. So that's something which will be very exciting. So we'll hear more about what they have found. So it will be more looking at how to save the white, and we have really a duty in that aspect of scope, of course. So we will navigate like this seafaring and in the ocean of knowledge, we could say somehow. It's a nice way as well to put it. And so we will know more then about Palestine then on the 9th of December. So thank you everyone to have joined, and so we will stop then the presentation now. Thanks again, and let's see you soon. Thank you everyone.
Thanks, bye-bye.